we're asked to convert these linear equations into slope-intercept form, and then graph them on a single coordinate plane. We have our coordinate plane over here. And just as a bit of a review, slope-intercept form is the form y is equal to mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the intercept. That's why it's called slope-intercept form. So we just have to algebraically manipulate these equations into this form. So let's start with line A. So line A, it's in standard form right now. It's 4x plus 2y is equal to -8. The first thing I'd like to do is get rid of this 4x from the left-hand side. And the best way to do that is to subtract 4x from both sides of this equation. So let me subtract 4x from both sides. The left-hand side of the equation, these two 4x's cancel out. And I'm just left with 2y is equal to, and on the right-hand side, I have -4x minus 8. -4x minus 8, or -8 minus 4x, however you want to view it. Now, we're almost at slope-intercept form. We just have to get rid of this 2. And the best way to do that I can think of is divide both sides of this equation by 2. So let's divide both sides by 2. So we divide the left-hand side by 2, and then divide the right-hand side by 2. You have to divide every term by 2. And then we are left with y. Y is equal to -4 divided by 2 is -2x. -8 divided by 2 is -4. -2x minus 4. So this is line A. And let me graph it right now. So line A, its y-intercept is -4. So the point 0, -4 is on this graph. If x is equal to 0, y is going to be equal to -4. You can just substitute that in the graph. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the point 0, -4. That's the y-intercept for line A. And then the slope is -2x. So that means that if I change x by +1, that y goes down by -2. So let's do that. So if I go over 1 in the positive direction, I have to go down 2. That's what a negative slope is going to do, -2 slope. If I go over 2, I'm going to have to go down 4. If I go back -1, so if I go in the x direction -1, that means in the y direction I go +2, because 2 divided by -1 is still -2. So I go over here. If I go back 2, I'm going to go up 4. And let me just do that a couple of back 2 and then up 4. So this line is going to look like this. This line is going to look like this. Do my best to draw it. That's a decent job. That is line A right there. All right, let's do line B. Line B. So line B, they say 4x is equal to -8. And you might be saying, hey, how do I get that into slope-intercept form? I don't see a y. And the answer is you won't be able to, because this can't be put into slope-intercept form, but we can simplify it. So let's divide both sides of this equation by 4. So you divide both sides of this equation by 4, and you get x is equal to -2. So this just means, I don't care what your y is, x is just always going to be equal to -2. So x is equal to -2 is right there, -1, -2, and x is just always going to be equal to -2. X is always going to be equal to -2 in both directions. And just as a bit of review, this is the x-axis, that's the y-axis. I forgot to label them. Now let's do this last character. 2y is equal to -8. So line C. We have 2y is equal to -8. We can divide both sides of this equation by 2. Divide both sides of this equation by 2. And we get y is equal to -4. So you might say, hey, Sal, that doesn't look like this form, slope-intercept form. But it is. It's just that the slope is 0. We could rewrite this as y is equal to 0x minus 4, where the y-intercept is -4 and the slope is 0. Y-intercept is -4. Y-intercept is -4 right there, and the slope is 0. So if you move an arbitrary amount in the x direction, the y is not going to change. It's just going to stay at -4. Let me do that a little bit neater. Y is just going to stay at -4. Or you can just interpret it as y is equal to negative 4 no matter what x is. So then we are done.